Hi, my name is Michael Naylor, and I'm the director of the Maine Enneagram Center for Transformation and Well-Being. And just want to say hello, introduce myself, uh, and just to let you know a little bit about the work I do, which really is around teaching, facilitating, understanding around the Enneagram, the study of the 9 types of personality and in understanding how each of us has a different kind of psychological, emotional, hard hardwiring that can be distinctly different than what we imagine other people are going through. So the thing that's powerful about the Enneagram is that it is a potential tool for not only developing the capacity to observe ourselves objectively and with kindness and hopefully a great sense of humor because we are quite funny characters, but to really assist people in understanding how really challenging it is to transform, to change, even with the best of information at hand. So that there actually are 2 phases to this work with the Enneagram. The first is I learn about my type. If you're anything like myself, when I learned about my type back in 1996, when my now Gurdjieff teacher was my therapist, and he said, "Oh, Michael, why don't you read about the type 4?" And I think at that point, uh, it was in personality types. This is when Don Riso had written his first book, and I read the type 4, and I was quite horrified and shocked to have actually seen my inner life written down in the pages of a book. And to have the particular neurotic patterns that I had acquired throughout my life to be so clearly articulated. Uh, I was shocked and I was also discouraged because I'd been in recovery for 15 years from addiction and had fancied myself to be a lot further along than I was. And little did I realize that it was going to be a bit of a downhill roll until I got more grounded and present. And so it was a shock. But then I had the natural assumption that now that I know my type, shouldn't take long at all to get through this. Hmm. Little did I know that it was going to be a long, slow process, that I would need to observe myself, learn to actually observe these patterns. It's one thing to have them filed away in my cabinet up here in what Gurdjieff calls the formatory apparatus, the library of my mind, and altogether another thing to begin to actually observe my patterns. That took long, slow, patient work, and recognizing that sometimes I needed to observe a particular pattern several thousand times before I actually had the gap inside my awareness to see myself getting ready to jump on the wagon of my type's reactivity and to not go there. So it was long and slow, but all of the effort that I have made has always come back in the form of a blessing, and usually in the form of really kind and loving people entering my life and helping me. So the second piece of the puzzle is once I learn my type is now I develop this kind of humble tenacity to stick with the process of peeling away the onion and the layers of defensiveness that I acquired as a little guy to protect my heart. And I see the Enneagram patterns, you know, reflected in how much we had to protect our hearts as little kids because, we live on a sometimes not a user friendly planet. And to the extent that we went through a lot of suffering in our childhood, then we relied on our type's patterns as the shield. And there looks to be 9 different shields that show up. So that's the second part of it, and certainly the thing we talk about a lot is this idea of developing also the capacity to observe myself with kindness and not judgment. That's actually that observing myself with kindness and non-judgment is actually what helps dissolve the trance-like capacity of my personality patterns. So, we repeat and we do it again and again and again, because what else is there to do but to work on transforming ourselves and developing a kind of a sense of humor around how darn hard it is, and also developing a kind of kindness for other people, because when you've struggled with your own patterns, after a while you don't have much to judge other people with, right? I can remember one Zen teacher, a man named Gempo, who runs the Utah Zen Center. And I told him, I said, I've been working at this a long time. I think I'm getting worse. And he laughed and he said, well, do you want the good news or the bad news first? And I said, well, give me the bad news. And he says, well, that's going to get worse. As you see more deeply into your patterns, you'll see how possessed you are. And then with it, though, you will start to develop compassion for yourself and also for other people, because you'll start to see that it's difficult for everyone, and that even for those who have all the information on the planet to work on transforming themselves, it's still hard. It's a difficult pattern, and it's really quite essential to have folks around you who can help you see what you can't see, because that's sort of the third piece of it, is that actually seeing my patterns in action is the hardest of work. It's easier to see my wife's patterns. They're just like obvious to me, right? And so there's this wisdom around understanding that if I have kind observers who I invite to help me see my patterns, that I'll start to develop eyes to see them myself. So to me, this is the heart and soul of the Enneagram, and using it in a way that can bring joy and tenderness and capacity to see your wonderful patterns like children that like to act out from time to time and do their own thing. And how do I learn to round them up and bring them back into the yard so they're not creating turmoil? And how do I learn to graciously say I'm sorry? Because the other thing certainly that my sponsor said is, part of your recovery is really getting skillful around saying you're sorry, that also awakens the capacity to see your patterns more easily. And I found that to be true. It's sometimes taken 1,000 times apologizing before a light goes on inside and I see the pattern before I inflict it on myself or others. So I think the other thing that I've really found beautiful about the Enneagram, and particularly in working with the Gurdjieff work, which is really a central part of my journey, is this really understanding, as my teacher says, is that there's nobody in the lead on this journey to transform. We're all really basically doing our best, crawling hands and knees to the goal alongside of everyone else. And some of us have areas, I think of it sometimes of my being as a multifaceted crystal. And so part of my work is as I become more present, I clean off one of the facets. So, I think I've made some headway. I've maybe have 25% of the facets are open and cleaned off, and the others are a work in progress. And my experience in working with people from all different parts of the world is that everybody has quite a few facets that are not cleaned off. And that's not a bad thing. That's just a part of this journey. And so there's room for all of us. And there's no need to feel inferior to anyone. That, we all need a hand. And on our own, we're in trouble. We need the light of other people. So, I think that the Enneagram is very forgiving in that way. And certainly, as I've fallen so many times and had the love and kindness of people to pick me up and keep me moving forward, that there's a sense of humor and a kind of grounded wisdom and I'd say just I don't know if humility is the right word, but it's just an appreciation of just how hard we all struggle, and uh, and we take turns being fools, right? One of the things that Gurdjieff often talked about was that the reason we meet in groups is that on a given day there are 10 people there. There might be 3 of them that are awake, and then they get to wake us all up. And it's very much like going to an AA meeting. If you go to an AA meeting and you realize, oh my God, 75% of the people here are out of their mind, but there's that 25% who on that given day are awake, and they do become channels for wisdom and kindness and affirmation. And that's how it goes, right? That's how it goes. And Gurdjieff, said that we are much smarter as a group than we are as individuals. So anyway, I just wanted to say hello and encourage those of you who have started this journey with the Enneagram to keep at it, to keep showing up. We say that in recovery circles and through all the spiritual circles that we go 4 steps forward and then we go 3 steps back, right? So, every time I've made forward progress, I think, oh my God, I am here. This is exactly where I want to be forever. And then, what do we say in the Gurdjieff work? Okay, you're really present and awake here. See if you can hold on to that presence through the first stop sign or the first stoplight. And if you get through 2 stoplights, you are having an awesome day, right? So it just means that things get forgotten quickly. You can understand that that's human, uh, not a big deal. And I think the other image that helps me is that when I'm at a workshop, either facilitating or being a part of, and feeling my heart and soul open up, and I become more present and more grateful and more tender. That out in the parking lot, my patterns are doing push-ups, waiting for me to come out. And lo and behold, before I know it, it might be a week, it might be a day, it might be 5 days. They are in possession of me again. Damn. So over time, you develop a kind of lighter heart around the whole thing, and also realize everybody else is going through it too. So anyway, just wanted to say hello, and if you're curious, you can check me out at enneagrammain.com. And yes, so many blessings to all of you, and I'll be back.